journey had just begun. Humanity had finally stepped beyond the boundaries of the known universe. But what they found on the other side was not an empty space waiting to be explored. It was a place filled with ancient secrets, forgotten civilizations, and mysteries that existed before the first stars were ever created. Captain Ethan Cole looked through the massive gateway as countless realities appeared before him. Every universe was different. Every reality had its own story. But somewhere among them was the answer humanity had been searching for since the beginning. The unknown structure continued moving closer. It was not attacking. It was not communicating. It was simply approaching, like it had been waiting for this exact moment for millions of years. The Creator watched it carefully, and for the first time, even he looked uncertain. Ethan noticed. You know what that is? The Creator stayed silent. Tell me. After a long pause, the Creator finally answered. It is the reason I created the Guardians. The words changed everything. The Guardian was never created because of the first enemy. It was never created because of the dragons. It was never created because of war. It was created because one day humanity would reach this moment, the moment when existence itself would ask for a choice. The archive began revealing information hidden deeper than anything before. Ancient records appeared, forgotten timelines, lost civilizations that disappeared before humans even existed. And then Ethan saw something impossible. Humanity was not the first species to reach beyond the universe. Others had tried. Thousands of civilizations. Millions of years ago, they discovered the same gateway. They entered the same unknown reality. And they all failed. Dr. Mitchell looked at the records. Why? The Watcher answered quietly. Because they wanted answers. And they were not ready for what the answers would change. The vision continued. Ancient civilizations discovering the truth of existence. They learned about the connection between every universe. They learned about the forces beyond reality. They learned about the first creation. But instead of protecting that knowledge, they tried to control it. And that became their downfall. The Dragon Empire watched the same history. Kaeldar looked at the ancient records with regret. Our ancestors did the same thing. Varkin looked at him. We searched for power. Kaeldar nodded. And we forgot wisdom. The Sentinels also witnessed their own mistake. They calculated everything, every battle, every possibility, every outcome. But they never calculated one thing, the value of uncertainty, the importance of choice. Inside the gateway, a new world appeared, a world unlike anything anyone had ever seen. There was no sun, no planet, no traditional form of life. Instead, there was a massive floating city built between realities, a civilization that existed outside normal time. The message appeared. Welcome, humanity. Everyone became silent because the message was not from an enemy. It was from someone who had been waiting. The gateway opened completely. A figure appeared. Not human, not dragon, not sentinel. Something completely different. An ancient being from the first civilizations. The being looked at Ethan. You finally arrived. Ethan stepped forward. You know us. The being answered. We have watched your entire journey. Ethan looked confused. Why? The ancient being looked toward Earth through the gateway. Because your species was the last possibility. The words created silence. The last possibility. Humanity was not chosen because it was the strongest. It was chosen because every other civilization had failed. The ancient being continued. You are the first species that reached the edge of existence without trying to own it. The Creator looked at Ethan. And Ethan finally understood. Humanity was never meant to rule the universe. Humanity was meant to protect its freedom. But then, the ancient city suddenly reacted. Warning signals appeared everywhere. The ancient being turned toward the darkness. No. Ethan noticed. What happened? The being looked terrified. The ones who destroyed the first civilizations have found you. The entire reality shook. A new force appeared beyond the gateway. Something that even the Creator recognized. Something that should have disappeared forever. The first creation became silent. The observer became alert. And the Creator whispered the words nobody wanted to hear. They have returned. The gateway began closing. The unknown civilization prepared for war. and humanity finally discovered the truth. They were not the first ones to reach the edge of existence, but they might be the last ones who could survive it. They were not the first ones to reach the edge of existence, but they might be the last ones who could survive it. Those words echoed through the ancient city as the reality around them started collapsing. The warning was not just a message. It was a countdown. Something was coming, and every ancient force in existence already knew what it meant. Captain Ethan Cole looked toward the closing gateway. On the other side was Earth, the place where humanity began, the place where every decision was made. But now, beyond that gateway, was a threat that could erase everything they had built. The ancient being looked at Ethan. You cannot fight them the way others did. Ethan stared at him. Then how do we stop them? The ancient being answered, you don't. Everyone became silent. You survive. The word shocked everyone, because for millions of years, every civilization believed survival came from strength, from weapons, from power. But the ancient civilizations learned the truth too late. The enemy they faced was not something that could be defeated by force. It was something that existed beyond conflict. The archive suddenly activated. A hidden record appeared, a record that even the creator had never seen. The screen showed the first moment when the universe faced this threat, before the Guardians, before the Sentinels, before the Dragon Empire. A civilization reached the edge of existence. They found the same truth humanity found. There was something beyond the universe. But instead of accepting it, they tried to control it. And that mistake created the greatest disaster in existence. The creator watched the vision carefully. His expression changed. I remember. Ethan looked at him. You were there. The creator nodded. I was created because of that mistake. The truth finally appeared. The creator was not the beginning. He was a response. A protection created after the first failure. The Guardians, the Archive, the Observer. Everything existed because someone once tried to take control of existence itself. The ancient enemy returned because it wanted to finish what it started. The first creation moved closer, not as a planet, not as an army, as a force that changed reality around it. Stars disappeared. Galaxies changed. Entire timelines became unstable. The dragon warriors prepared themselves. For the first time, they were not fighting for conquest. They were fighting for survival. Varkin looked at Ethan. Tell me one thing. Ethan looked back. What? The dragon commander spoke. Do humans always face impossible situations? Ethan looked at the endless darkness, then smiled slightly. Usually. Varkin nodded. Then we chose the right allies. The Sentinels connected their systems with human technology. The dragons shared their ancient knowledge. And humanity shared the one thing that no other civilization had, the ability to adapt. The ancient city started moving, not away, forward. The entire city was transforming into a massive vessel capable of traveling between realities. Dr. Mitchell looked at the structure. This was a city? The ancient being answered. No, it was a message for whoever reached this point. The walls changed. A final message appeared. The future does not belong to the strongest. IT belongs to those who can change. Ethan looked at the words, because he finally understood. The universe was not testing humanity's power. It was testing humanity's ability to become something greater. Then the enemy arrived. The darkness beyond reality opened. Something emerged. Not one creature, not one ship, an entire forgotten civilization. The ones who existed before history, the ones who believed they owned creation. The ancient being whispered, the first architects. Everyone froze, because these were not destroyers. They were creators. And now they had returned to take back everything they believed belonged to them. The first architects sent one message. Return what was created. The creator stepped forward. For the first time in millions of years, he faces origin. And the universe prepared for the greatest confrontation it had ever seen. The universe prepared for the greatest confrontation it had ever seen. The arrival of the first architects changed everything. They were not an unknown enemy from a distant galaxy. They were the original creators of countless systems, the beings who shaped civilizations before disappearing into the darkness of time. And now they had returned because they believed everything created after them belonged to them. The massive structures of the first architects moved through reality like living worlds. Their technology was beyond anything humans, dragons, or sentinels had ever witnessed. Entire dimensions changed as they passed through them. Space itself reacted to their presence. Captain Ethan Cole stood at the center of the ancient city, watching the impossible force approaching. Every civilization around him was afraid, not because they were weak, but because for the first time they were facing something that existed before their understanding of power. The Creator stepped forward and faced the approaching architects. For millions of years, he carried the responsibility of protecting the universe. But now he was standing in front of the beings who created the first rules of existence. One of the architects appeared before them. A voice echoed across reality. You protected what was never yours. The Creator looked at the being. I protected what was alive. The architect responded. Life was created by us. Ethan listened carefully, and then he understood the real conflict. This was not a war over planets. It was not a war over technology. It was a war over one question. Who has the right to decide the future? The architect continued. You changed the design. The Creator answered. Because the design was incomplete, the universe became silent. Those words were something nobody expected to hear. Even the Creator admitted that the original plan was not perfect. The first architects believed perfection meant control. The Creator believed existence needed freedom. And humanity represented the final proof. The archive showed another hidden truth. The first architects had not disappeared because they were defeated. They left because they realized something terrifying. Even creators could make mistakes. They created life, but life became something they could not control. Humanity was the final result of that experiment. A species that was never designed to be perfect. A species designed to evolve. Dr. Mitchell looked at Ethan. That's why we were chosen. Ethan nodded. Because we were never finished. The Dragon Empire prepared for battle beside humanity. But Kaeldar knew something. This was not a fight that could be won with weapons. The Sentinels activated every system they had. But even their calculations failed. Because the future was no longer predictable. And that was humanity's greatest advantage. The first architects launched their first attack. But it was not an explosion. It was a change. Reality around them started disappearing. Worlds that existed for billions of years began fading. Not destroyed. Rewritten. Ethan watched in horror. They are not attacking us. The Watcher looked at him. No, they are correcting us. The word sent fear through everyone. The architects did not want to destroy existence. They wanted to reset it. Remove every choice. Remove every mistake. Remove everything that made life unpredictable. The guardian symbol on Ethan's hand started reacting. The Creator looked at it. The final purpose of the guardian has arrived. Ethan looked at him. What does that mean? The Creator answered. You must protect the right to choose. The ancient city started transforming. The archive opened every remaining secret. The knowledge of every civilization. Every failure. Every victory. Everything was connected. And humanity finally received the power that every civilization searched for. Not the power to control the universe. The power to understand it. Ethan stepped forward. The first architects watched him. A human. A species they considered unfinished. But the architect said something unexpected. You are the reason everything changed. Ethan looked at them. Because we were weak? The architect answered. No, because you were free. The final battle was about to begin, not between armies, between two ideas, control and freedom. And for the first time in existence, the universe waited for humanity's choice. The universe waited for humanity's choice. For a moment, everything stopped. The first architects, the Creator, the Observer, the dragons, the sentinels, and humanity itself all stood in silence. The fate of countless realities was no longer controlled by the strongest force. It was decided by the one species that had always been considered unfinished. Captain Ethan Cole looked at the first architects. You created the universe. The architect remained silent. You created life. Another silence. But you never trusted it. The words echoed across reality. The first architects had created everything, but they feared what their creations could become. They believed freedom created chaos. They believed mistakes created weakness. They believed the only way to protect existence was to control every possibility. But humanity proved something different. A mistake could become a lesson. A failure could become growth. And uncertainty could create something greater than perfection. The Guardian symbol began glowing brighter than ever before. But this time, it was not giving Ethan power. It was showing him every choice, every possible future, every path humanity could take. He saw worlds where humanity became rulers. He saw worlds where humanity disappeared. He saw worlds where peace existed, and worlds where everything was lost. But one thing remained the same. The future was never decided by strength. It was decided by choices. The Creator looked at Ethan. Now you understand. Ethan nodded. The Guardian was never meant to protect the universe from others. It was meant to protect the universe from itself. The first architects reacted. For the first time, uncertainty appeared within them, because they understood something they never expected. Humanity had reached the same level as the creators. Not because humans had more power, because humans had learned what the creators forgot, the value of change. The architect sent a final message. Then prove it. The entire reality changed. A test began, not a battle, a choice. The first architects created a perfect universe in front of humanity, a universe without war, without pain, without fear. Every civilization would live forever. Every problem would disappear. It was everything every species ever wanted. But Ethan noticed something. Nobody was choosing. Every action was already decided. Every emotion was controlled. Every future was already written. It was a beautiful universe, but it was not alive. Ethan looked at the Creator, then at the first architects, and finally at the endless realities beyond them. We choose the imperfect universe. The architect asked, "Why?" Ethan answered, "Because an imperfect life that can choose is better than a perfect life that cannot." The moment those words were spoken, the entire universe reacted. The archive opened. The Guardian reached its final stage. The first creation awakened, and the impossible happened. The first architects changed. For the first time in existence, the creators learned from their creation. They understood that their greatest creation was never the universe. It was the freedom inside it. The massive structures began disappearing, not destroyed, transformed. Their power returned to the universe. Stars that were fading returned. Lost worlds reappeared. Broken timelines healed. The universe began writing a new chapter. The Dragon Empire lowered their weapons. The Sentinels disconnected their control systems. And humanity stood at the center of a new age. But then, a final signal appeared. One last message from beyond everything they knew. The message was not from an enemy, not from the past, not from the future. It was from another reality, a reality where humanity had never existed. The message contained only one sentence. "We need your help." Ethan looked at the endless realities. The journey that started with one planet had become something far greater. The universe was saved, but the story was not over. The universe was saved, but the story was not over. The final message continued glowing inside the archive, and for the first time since humanity entered the unknown, nobody had an answer. A civilization from another reality had sent a request for help, a reality where humanity never existed, a reality that had survived without the species that changed everything. Captain Ethan Cole stared at the message. He had fought dragons. He had faced ancient forces. He had stood against beings older than creation itself. But this was different. This was a question that could change the meaning of everything they had discovered. The Creator looked at the message with concern. "There are realities where your existence never happened." Ethan looked at him. "Then why are they asking us?" The Creator remained silent, because even he did not know the answer. The archive began analyzing the signal. Thousands of calculations appeared. The Sentinels searched through every possibility. The dragons studied the energy pattern. But every result led to the same conclusion. The message came from a reality that should not be connected, a reality that existed outside the natural flow of the multiverse. Dr. Mitchell looked at the data. "This is impossible." Alaron answered quietly. Everything we discovered was impossible until humanity reached it. The ancient city prepared the gateway. But this time, the journey was different. Before, humanity traveled to discover. Now, humanity traveled to save. The gateway opened. Beyond it was not a universe filled with stars. It was a broken reality. A place where galaxies were frozen, where planets stopped moving, where entire civilizations were trapped inside moments of time. Ethan stepped forward and saw something that shocked him. There were no humans, no Earth, no sign of a species that changed the universe. But there was something else. A civilization that had followed a completely different path. They had no wars, no destruction, no hunger. They achieved peace thousands of years before humanity. But they had one problem. They had stopped evolving. They became perfect, and perfection became their prison. The ancient civilization welcomed Ethan and his team. Their leader appeared, an advance being made of pure energy and knowledge. You are the first humans we have ever seen. Ethan looked around. And you are the first civilization we have seen without humans. The leader looked at him. That is why we called you. Ethan was confused. Why? The leader answered, because we reached the end. Silence filled the room. The end of discovery. The end of change. The end of possibility. They showed humanity their history. A civilization that solved every problem. A civilization that removed every weakness. A civilization that became everything they wanted to become. But slowly, they lost the reason to continue. Because when everything is perfect, there is nothing left to create. Ethan finally understood. The first architects made the same mistake. The civilization made the same mistake. They removed every challenge. And they removed the future. The guardian symbol reacted. The archive revealed a new truth. Humanity was never special because it was powerful. Humanity was special because it was unfinished. The ability to grow was the greatest power in existence. The leader looked at Ethan. Can you save us? Ethan looked at his team. The dragons, the sentinels, the creator. Everyone waited. And Ethan gave an answer nobody expected. We cannot save you. The civilization became silent. But we can remind you how to save yourselves. The words changed everything. Because humanity finally understood the true purpose of their journey. They were not chosen to rule. They were not chosen to conquer. They were chosen to share the one thing every powerful civilization eventually lost, the ability to change. But then the reality started shaking. The broken universe detected something approaching, something that even this ancient civilization feared. The leader looked toward the darkness. No! Ethan turned. What is it? The leader whispered. The thing that comes when a universe stops changing. A massive shadow appeared beyond the frozen galaxies, a force created from the end of evolution itself. And this time, humanity was not facing an enemy. They were facing the final consequence of perfection. The final consequence of perfection. Those words echoed through the broken reality, like a warning from the universe itself. The approaching force was not a creature, not an army, and not a civilization. It was something far more dangerous. It was a result of every world that chose to stop changing. A force born from forgotten dreams, lost curiosity, and civilizations that believed they had already reached the highest point. Captain Ethan Cole looked at the massive shadow moving between the frozen galaxies. For the first time, even the creator had no clear answer. What is that? Ethan asked. The ancient leader of the energy civilization looked terrified. It is called the silence. The name alone created fear. The silence appears when a universe reaches the end of its journey. When every question has been answered. When every discovery has been made. When every possibility disappears. Ethan watched the darkness getting closer. So it destroys everything? The leader shook his head. No, it removes the need for anything to exist. The words were more frightening than any weapon, because this enemy did not want power. It did not want control. It wanted an end. The archive started reacting violently. Every record, every timeline, every memory from billions of years appeared at once. The guardian symbol on Ethan's hand began changing. The creator looked at it. The guardian has reached its final purpose. Ethan turned toward him. What does that mean? The creator looked at the endless realities. It means the universe is no longer asking humanity to survive. It is asking humanity to create. The answer shocked everyone. Humanity had always fought to protect what existed, but now they had to protect the possibility of what could exist. The silence moved closer. Entire galaxies around it stopped. Not destroyed, not burned, simply forgotten. The Dragon Empire prepared their fleets. The Sentinels activated their strongest systems. But everyone knew the truth. Weapons could not defeat something that was not alive. Alaron looked at Ethan. Every civilization before us tried to fight it, and they failed. Ethan looked at the frozen universe. Then we don't fight it. Everyone turned toward him. We changed the game. The Guardian symbol released a powerful energy wave, not an attack, a message across the entire reality. Every surviving civilization received the same signal, a message from humanity, not a command, not an order, an invitation. Remember who you were before you became perfect. The frozen worlds began reacting. Small changes started happening. A single star began moving again. A single planet started rotating. A single civilization opened its eyes because the universe was remembering something it had forgotten. Change was not a weakness. Change was life. The silence reacted for the first time. It stopped because it had never faced something like humanity before. Every civilization before humanity wanted to defeat the end. Humanity wanted to understand it. Ethan stepped forward. You are not the enemy. The darkness moved closer. You are the result of every species giving up. The universe became silent. But we won't. The Guardian energy expanded. The creator watched with surprise. Because Ethan was doing something even the creators never achieved. He was communicating with the unknown. The silence sent one final message. Why do you continue? Ethan looked at Earth through the gateway. He remembered the first day of the invasion, the battles, the losses, the impossible moments. And then he answered, because there's always something we haven't discovered yet. The words traveled across reality, and for the first time, the silence changed. The final enemy of existence had found the one thing it could not erase, curiosity. The broken universe started healing. The frozen galaxies started moving. The lost civilizations started waking. But then the archive revealed one final secret, a secret hidden even from the creator. A new signal appeared from beyond the edge of reality, a signal that proved one thing. The universe was not the end. It was only the beginning. The universe was not the end. It was only the beginning. The final signal from beyond reality continued spreading, reaching places that even the first architects never discovered. Every civilization that was still alive received the same message, and every one of them understood the same thing. There was something beyond everything they knew. Captain Ethan Cole looked at the endless reality surrounding him and realized that humanity's journey was no longer about survival. It was about discovering what existence truly meant. The ancient civilization that had lost its purpose watched humanity with curiosity. For millions of years, they searched for perfection. They removed every weakness, every mistake, and every uncertainty. But humanity showed them something they had forgotten. A universe without challenges was not a paradise. It was a prison. The leader of the ancient civilization approached Ethan. You changed what we believed for thousands of years. Ethan looked at him. What did you believe? The leader looked toward the endless galaxies. That the final answer was the goal. He paused. But now we understand. The journey was always the answer. The words traveled across the broken reality. The silence, the force that represented the end of change, was slowly disappearing. Not because it was destroyed, because it finally understood its purpose. It was never created to end existence. It was created as a reminder that nothing should ever stop growing. The creator watched the transformation silently. For the first time, he was not protecting the universe. He was learning from it. The first architects returned one final time, but they were no longer the creators who wanted control. They appeared as beings who finally accepted the beauty of uncertainty. One of them looked at Ethan. We spent eternity creating perfection. The architect looked toward the living universe. But you showed us something greater. Ethan asked, What? The architect answered, possibility. The guardian symbol began fading from Ethan's hand. The power that once belonged to ancient beings was returning to where it always belonged. The universe itself. The archive opened one final chamber. A chamber that had never been accessed before. Inside was not a weapon, not a secret technology, not a hidden civilization. It was a simple message. The greatest creation is the one that can create itself. Everyone became silent because the truth was finally revealed. The universe was not a finished creation. It was still being written. Every choice, every civilization, every life, every moment, they were all part of the story. Humanity returned to the gateway, but they were no longer the same species that left Earth. They carried the knowledge of countless realities. They carried the lessons of civilizations that rose and fell. They carried the responsibility of protecting not just one world, but every possibility that existed. Earth looked the same. The oceans, the continents, the skies, but humanity was different. They finally understood why they were chosen. Not because they were the strongest, not because they were the smartest, because even when the universe told them they were too small, they kept moving forward. Years passed. Humanity became a bridge between realities. The dragons became explorers instead of conquerors. The sentinels became guardians instead of machines. The ancient civilizations began changing again, and the universe entered a new age. An age where no species stood above another. An age where every world had the freedom to choose its own path. But deep beyond the edge of existence, a new signal appeared. Not a warning, not a threat, a discovery. The archive received one final message. Another universe has found you. Captain Ethan Cole looked at the stars. A small smile appeared on his face. Because after everything humanity had faced, after every war, after every impossible challenge, there was still one thing that never changed. The unknown was waiting, and humanity was ready. The unknown signal from another universe continued glowing inside the archive. For the first time in history, humanity was not looking for answers. Humanity had become the answer. But deep beyond the edge of existence, something was waiting. Something that had been watching every battle, every discovery, and every choice humanity made since the beginning. Captain Ethan Cole stood silently in front of the massive gateway. Behind him was everything humanity had fought for. Earth, the Dragon Empire, the Sentinels, the countless civilizations that now believed in humanity. But ahead of him was a new mystery, a universe that had found them. The creator looked at Ethan. Every journey has a beginning and an ending. He paused. But some endings are only the first page of a greater story. Ethan looked at the gateway. Then let's see what is waiting for us. The gateway opened, and humanity entered the final unknown. On the other side was a universe unlike anything they had ever seen. There were no stars, no planets, no galaxies, only a massive ocean of energy stretching endlessly across existence. The archive scanned the area. The results shocked everyone. This was not a normal universe. It was the place where universes were born, the origin point, the place where every reality began. Dr. Mitchell looked at the data. This can't be real. Aleron looked around. Everything we called impossible was only something we had not understood yet. The team moved deeper into the unknown, and then they found it, a structure bigger than galaxies, a structure older than time itself, the final archive, the place where the first creators recorded the story of existence. Ethan walked inside. The walls were covered with millions of messages from civilizations that no longer existed. Every species, every world, every dream, all recorded here. Then the final message appeared. The universe was never created to be perfect. Everyone became silent. The message continued. IT was created to grow. Ethan finally understood the entire journey. The dragons, the sentinels, the first architects, the silence. Everything was connected. The universe was not a machine designed to run forever. It was a living story. And every civilization was a part of that story. Then the final archive revealed one last secret. Humanity was not accidentally discovered. Humanity was not chosen by chance. The universe had been waiting for a species that could understand one simple truth. The future belongs to those who continue changing. The Creator looked at Ethan. Now you know why humanity survived. Ethan smiled, because we never believed the story was over. At that moment, every civilization connected through the archive. The dragons sent their final message. We once searched for power, but humanity taught us the value of purpose. The Sentinels sent theirs. We were created to protect life. Now we understand what life truly means. The ancient civilizations joined. The first architects watched. And for the first time, the creators themselves learned from their creation. The universe entered a new age. Not an age of war. Not an age of conquest. An age of exploration. Humanity returned to Earth. But Earth was no longer a small planet in a massive universe. It was the beginning of something greater. A bridge between countless realities. A symbol that even the smallest civilization could change everything. Years passed. Humanity explored unknown galaxies. They helped lost civilizations. They discovered new worlds. But they never forgot the first lesson. The universe was not waiting for someone to control it. It was waiting for someone to understand it. Captain Ethan Cole stood one final time beneath the night sky. The same sky where everything began. He looked at the stars, and he knew the journey that started with an invasion had become something nobody expected. A story of survival, a story of evolution, a story of humanity. Because when the universe asked, who will shape the future? Humanity answered, we will.